What's up again, Wrestling Figs fans, and we are back with another video, and today we're going to be looking at some WWE Women's Elites. So let's get started straight away with Series 24, Trish Stratus. Now, growing up watching the Attitude Era of WWF, Trish Stratus was, for me, the first wrestler that I kind of thought stood out as an actual wrestler and not like eye candy. Even though she started out as eye candy, she did later on become a wrestler and she became really good at it. And I believe she was a 7 times women's champion. So this figure is actually one that I've been wanting to get for a while, but I couldn't find it in the box for a good price, and believe it or not, the cheapest one that I could find actually came with this autograph. Now the figure is one of the older Elites. Like I said, it's from Series 24, so it comes in that really tall packaging. Now if you take a look here, if I was to move Trish Stratus to the very bottom of this box, you've basically got half a box of nothing. So I don't like these really tall boxes. But anyway, the box comes with a nice picture of Trish Stratus on the front. It's one of the flashback series. Trish Stratus' name on the side here, and the Women's Championship. On the other side, another cool picture of Trish Stratus. And on the back, some more details. As you can see, this is Trish Stratus' first figure in the Elite series. It's got some details about her career. It actually says here that she was the hardcore champion. I don't actually remember that, but that's another cool detail. It's got some details about Trish Stratus. If you want to stop and read, you can. If not, let's take a look at who else comes in this series. We got Rey Mysterio, Dolph Ziggler, Ryback, Wade Barrett, and The Miz. Now the box also advertises a Raw ring. So taking a look at the figure itself, which is kind of obscured by this autograph, which is one of the reasons I don't like it being there, but Trish comes in that signature look that she was famous for as a wrestler. A nice bit of detail on the top here, some cool elbow pads, the trousers look great, but I think the face scan looks really, really good. To me it looks exactly like Trish Stratus, and I don't think you can get any better than that, to be honest. I really like this figure and I'm so glad that I finally managed to get a hold of it. I was kind of hesitant to start a women's elite collection, literally because I thought if I couldn't get a hold of a Trish Stratus, what was the point? Because when I was growing up, she was my favourite women's wrestler. So I really didn't know whether or not to get women's elites, because I thought if I did, the whole collection would just feel like it's missing the main star. But another thing I'll mention is the figure actually comes with that old school Attitude Era Women's Championship belt. And I think it's a really, really cool belt. Nice bit of detail on the side there. Cool detail on the actual front. It's a really good looking belt, if you ask me. Way better than what they came up with after this. I think the next belt after this was the Divas Championship, which was kind of like a spit in the face of like the women's division, if you ask me. But I'm so glad that this figure actually comes with the belt that Trish Stratus made famous. Now moving on, we've actually looked at this figure before, so I won't go into too much detail, but I will leave a link in the description below where you can take a more detailed look at this figure. But I feel like I can't do a women's video without including this figure, and it's Lita. So like I said, I've actually looked at this figure in the past, so we won't go into too much detail, but I think this is a really good figure. I spoke about it before. Back in the day, these two were really good rivals. They had some really good matches. But yeah, we're not going to really look at Lita too much today, so let's move on. Now the next figure we're going to take a look at is Elite Series 54, Charlotte Flair. Now there's not many modern wrestlers in the WWE that I'm really a big fan of, so if you take a look at my collection, you won't see too many of the current roster. But I really think that Charlotte Flair has actually brought some authenticity, some prestige to the women's division in the WWE today. So I'm actually a bit of a fan of Charlotte Flair's. Whenever I do watch her matches, I find that she's really good. And I think this figure is really good too. It's one of the latest series of the Elites, so it comes in that, in my opinion, better shaped box, more rectangular. On the side, a nice picture of Charlotte Flair. On the other side, just her name. On the back, a cool picture of Charlotte Flair with that really cool looking Divas Championship. But I just don't like what it stands for. I don't like the Divas aspect of it. I prefer if it was the Women's Championship. Now this figure doesn't actually come with that belt, which is a real shame, because as much as I don't like what the belt stands for, I think it's a cool belt, and any belt is welcome in my collection, so it would have been nice to have that here in this figure, but it isn't, so what can you do? But taking a look who else comes in this series, like I said, you got Charlotte Flair, you got Rich Swann, John Cena, Jey Uso, Jimmy Uso, and Bray Wyatt. Now taking a a look at the figure itself, I believe this is based on Charlotte Flair from one of her WrestleMania appearances, and the gown that she's wearing is actually a throwback to one that Ric Flair wore in his final WWE match against Shawn Michaels. So we might not have the Divas belt accessory, but we do get this really cool cloth gown. I'm so glad this isn't made out of plastic or rubber. I think the face scan is okay, like it doesn't look 100% like Charlotte Flair, but you can kind of tell it is. They've added that little mole that Charlotte Flair has on her chin, which is nice. And she's also got some like bedazzled jewelry, little sticky jewels stuck on the side of her face there, which she did wear during WrestleMania, as you can see in this picture on the side. Now, without actually opening the box, I can't actually see what she's wearing, but I'm going to guess that it is the attire that she has on at WrestleMania and on the back of this box. Again, another really cool figure. Now, the next figure we're going to take a look at is Elite Series 58, Mickie James. Taking a look at the box, it's very similar to the Charlotte Flair one. On the side, we've got a nice picture of Mickie James. On the other side, her name. On the back, we've got another picture of Mickie James and some details here. A couple of career highlights and a little bit about Mickie James there. And if we take a look who else comes in this series, we've got Braun Strowman, Sheamus, Cesaro, of course Mickie James, Matt Hardy, and Dean Ambrose. Now, this is a bit of an odd one for me because I really liked Mickie James when she debuted in the maybe late Attitude Era or just after the Attitude Era. She had a really good storyline with Trish Stratus, but the figure itself is actually based off of Mickie James when she returned to WWE a couple of years back at an NXT event, but it comes with the old Women's Championship. So it's a little bit confusing because you've got a current Mickie James with an old school belt, but I don't think Mickie James's look has changed that much since those days, so I don't mind having a more modern Mickie James. I do like Mickie James anyway. But yeah, like I just mentioned, the figure does come with that Women's Championship belt, which again, I've got that twice now. I really love this belt, and it's really cool to see this figure with it. I love the attire that she's wearing, the really nice colours. She's got these cool flares. You've got a little design on the side there. We can't really see it in the box. I really like that top, that bra sort of thing that she's wearing. Nice detail on there, a lot of detail actually. And again, just like Charlotte Flair, the face isn't 100% like Mickie James, but you know, it's close enough, and I think it's a really good looking face scan nonetheless. So again, this is another figure that I really like, and I'm glad I've got it in my collection. Now, the next figure we're going to be taking a look at is from the Elite Collector's Edition, and it's Sensational Sherry. Now, as you can see, this is the first time in the line for Sensational Sherry, which is cool. It's part of the Collector's Edition, so they're a little bit harder to come by. On the side of the box, we've got Sherry's name. On the other side of the box, we've got a cool picture of Sensational Sherry. On the back of the box, we've got a little bit of detail, and we've actually got a nice picture of Sensational Sherry there. Some information on the bottom, and some of her career highlights. Now, I don't remember too much about Sensational Sherry. I used to watch all the old WrestleManias on DVD, and she popped up a few times there. She once managed the Macho Man when he was the Macho King, which I'm pretty sure the look of this figure is based off of when she managed the Macho Man, and I think she was called Queen Sherry or something like that. She also managed Harlem Heat back in WCW and a few others. I remember her being a really cool manager, but I mainly remember her when she managed my favorite wrestler of all time, the Heartbreak Kid, Shawn Michaels. Now, some may not know this, but Shawn Michaels' theme song that he still uses today was originally completely sung by Sensational Sherry, and then a few years later they kind of tweaked it where Shawn Michaels sings it himself, but all the women's vocals in that song are still by Sensational Sherry. So it's nice when you hear Shawn Michaels music, you do get to hear. So it's nice that every time you do hear Shawn Michaels music still, you know, there's a little bit of Sensational Sherry there. I really like this entrance gear. I think it's a really nice touch to the figure. Once again, I don't open my figures, so we won't see what she looks like underneath there, but the picture on the back kind of shows you what it would look like. This figure also comes with that little head crown thing, which is a nice little touch. But I think the face scan is really good on this. I really like the face paint on this one. I think they've made her a little bit too, I'm not too sure, like chubby faced or a little bit too kind of pretty maybe. I remember Sherry wasn't the most prettiest of the women back in the day. She kind of had that tough look. So this figure doesn't look as tough as the real Sensational Sherry. But, you know, with that makeup on and the hair and the dress, you can tell it's Sensational Sherry, and I really like it. So we're not done yet. We're going to take a look at another manager from the past, and that is Miss Elizabeth. Now this figure is from the Then, Now and Forever line. So in this series you can get some figures that represent then, some figures that represent now, and some figures that represent forever. And as you can see on the side here, this figure represents the forever part of that, celebrating the legacy, whatever that means. And as you can see, it's got Miss Elizabeth's name on the front here, a nice picture of Miss Elizabeth on the side, the same picture again on the back, but with a little bit of detail about Miss Elizabeth. If you want to take a look there, you can. But the other people who you can get in this series, representing the then part of it, is Jason Jordan and Chad Gable from American Alpha, I believe they were called. And representing the now section is Seth Rollins. So on the front of the box, it says the figure includes a dress, which as you can see, it does, but I can't really think of what they've put Miss Elizabeth in underneath that dress. I feel like it may say includes a dress, but I don't see why you'd be taking this off unless you're a pervert. Now off the top of my head, I can't think of any accessories that this figure could have come with, but it does look a bit empty. Of all my figures, this one is very empty. You know, they could have put something here, they could have put something there. Even if they would have put a bit of cardboard covering up this with a picture of Miss Elizabeth or something, I don't know what it is. It just looks very bare, so it doesn't have that sort of eye-catching, appealing look to it. But anyway, one thing I've actually noticed about this figure is it has the double-jointed knees, which is something that I didn't think that female elites had. As you can see, Trish Stratus doesn't have it, Lita doesn't have it, Mickie James doesn't have it, and if you could see underneath the dresses, I'm pretty sure Sensational Sherry and Charlotte Flair don't have it either. And these elites actually came out after this one. So it's nice that this figure has that double jointed knee articulation, but it's also kind of strange because, like I say, I've never seen an elite woman with that articulation, plus she's a manager, so it'd make more sense to have the wrestlers have that articulation more than Miss Elizabeth. But anyway, the dress is really nice. I really like that shiny looking dress. As you can see, there was some sort of tape or something on this box that someone had on there before I bought it, so it does obstruct the view a little bit. It's got these nice long gloves on, I like them. Another accessory is that necklace. I like that 80s hairstyle she's got. However, it would have been nice, if you can see it, if they would have painted on some sideburns or something, because it looks like she's bald, looks like she's wearing a wig. Not a fan of that, but whatever, it's only a small detail. The face scan, I don't think it really looks like Miss Elizabeth at all. But yeah, I really like this figure, and like all of my women elites, I'm really glad that I got this one. Now the next figure we're going to be taking a look at is a bit of a consolation prize for me. It's actually Alundra Blaze. Now we'll get to why I have this figure in a moment, but first of all, let's take a look at the packaging. It's from the Elite Flashback series. I really like the packaging on this Flashback series. And again, it's the first time in the line for Alundra Blaze. On the side of the box, we've got a nice picture of Alundra. On the other side, her name. On the back, we've got a bit of information about Alundra. And we can also see who else we have in the series. Of course, we have Alundra Blaze. We got Doink the Clown, who I would love to have. We got Razor Ramon, and we got Shawn Michaels, who I absolutely love. And if you collect all of these figures, you can actually put together Shawn Michaels' Heartbreak Hotel. And if you take a look in the back of this box behind Alundra, you can see I have half of this heart bed. I probably won't end up getting the whole set. Now I think the figure looks really cool, and like I pointed out a minute ago, it doesn't have that double knee articulation, but again, Miss Elizabeth does. Another thing about these women's elites, they usually just sort of paint over the body, and it leaves this belly button mark, which always looks weird. It looks like they've got body paint on rather than an actual costume, but it's a small detail and it's not really ruining the figure. But the costume itself, I think, is really good. It's got a lot of detail. I really like the look of this figure. Unlike most of these women's elites, the face scan isn't 100% there, but I think it's good enough. But I think my favorite part about this is the fact that it comes with this really old WWF Women's Championship belt. You know, I don't think you can get this with any other figure. It's got that nice pink leather strap and a very, very small plate on there. But getting back to why I have this figure, actually comes back to this belt a little bit. I never really watched Alundra Blaze in the WWF, so I can't really say I'm an Alundra Blaze fan. However, while she was still the WWF Women's Champion, she jumped ship to WCW, and live on Monday Night Nitro, she actually threw this belt in the trash and changed her name to Medusa. And I was a huge WCW fan, and Medusa was actually one of my favorite WCW wrestlers. She kind of reminded me of like Chyna. She would wrestle some of the guys. She was like a big powerful woman, and like I say, I was just a really big fan of Medusa. However, I don't think WWE would ever release a Medusa figure. I personally feel like they're still kind of bitter about how she went onto WCW and trashed that belt. So it's like they've made an Alundra Blaze but not made a Medusa to try and cast shade on her leaving WWF. That's how I feel anyway. But if there was a Medusa figure, I wouldn't have bought this. I would have 100% bought that one instead. Now the final figure that I'm actually going to be taking a look at isn't actually an Elite. It's one of the more recent Mattel Ultimate Edition series, and it's Ronda Rousey. Now straight off the bat, I will just say this: I'm not really a huge fan of the Ultimate Edition series. I found that some of the face scans don't look that good. I really don't like the chest crunch that they come with, and I'm a mint on card collector, so I like to display the figure. So when it comes with all these accessories, it doesn't look as appealing to me when you have it in the box on display like this. You know, if it had nothing, just literally that, it would feel a lot more better. But when you have all that, it just feels like this box is supposed to be opened and played with. But anyway, I do like the packaging on these figures. I like the colour, the red and the white. You got Ronda Rousey's name at the top here, that Ultimate Edition down there, and that nice shiny effect. On one side of the box we got Ronda Rousey's name. On the other side of the box we got a nice picture of Ronda Rousey. A cool thing about these Ultimates, I guess if you wanted to, you could sort of display them laying down, because it also has their name on the top. And on the back of the box, not only do we have a real picture of Ronda Rousey, but we also have a picture of the figure showing off the articulation and some of the poses that you can put it into. And as you can see, these Ultimate Edition figures actually have that double knee articulation. They have the double elbow articulation, and they have that wrist pivot that I haven't actually seen any diva have. Now taking a look at the accessories, you get quite a few in there. You get Ronda Rousey's little kilt, you get the leather jacket, you get the arms that go with it, you get an extra set of fists, and you get 2 extra head scans, so you get 3 heads in total. Out of the 3 head scans, I would say that the one that looks the most authentic and the most like Ronda Rousey is the one that's on the figure at the moment. I think it's a really good head scan. I think it's really close to what she looks like. I think the body looks really good on this one. You know, the clothes that she's wearing are very simple, but that's what she wrestles in. You kind of got that UFC look. And that little shirt that she wears to kind of pay homage to Roddy Piper. Now, I mentioned the face scans are one of the things I don't like about these Ultimates. However, I think this one's actually a very strong face scan. And another thing that I really don't like about these Ultimate Editions is that chest crunch. I think it just looks very weird. It looks like them old Jax figures. But on the women, the chest crunch looks way better. It looks 1,000 times better. It actually looks better than the Elite chest crunches. At least on this Ronda Rousey, because her shirt actually ends where the chest crunch is. And usually on the men's Ultimate Editions, this chest crunch is a lot wider and there's more of a gap, so you can really see it's there. It's horrible, I really don't like it, but it looks great on this one. It's barely noticeable. So I'm actually a really big fan of this figure. So there you have it, guys. I tried not to go into too much detail about these figures because I'm showing off quite a lot, but I probably dragged on longer than I should have. But I really like these women's figures that I have. The one that I really wanted the most and glad I've got the most is Trish Stratus. The one that I think looks the best is definitely this Ultimate Edition Ronda Rousey. Probably my least favourite of the bunch is this Miss Elizabeth. But anyway, let's wrap this up. But before we do, what was your favourite and what was your least favourite? You let me know in the comments below. And if you like the video, give it a thumbs up. If you don't, give it a thumbs down. But don't forget to subscribe for more wrestling figs.